Okay, today for our stretch and roll class, we're going to use a ball and a towel. I like the towels because they're a little bit more dense than the blanket. So come to a seated posture. Let your eyes close. Become more like the observer as you notice sounds and thoughts and sensations arise. You keep watching them, eventually they'll dissolve back. And you could almost think of yourself like the ocean, and these thoughts, sounds, sensations, everything that arises in the present moment are just different waves that are passing through the ocean. And what we tend to do is not like some of these waves and try to push them away. And that's when we suffer the most. So my invitation for you today is to just be aware of these waves that will just constantly keep coming. Just noticing this is a wave just passing through the space of what you are. There's this quote from Jeff Foster that reads, "All human suffering is a variation on this theme, trying to control the waves, trying to control our present moment experience so it conforms to our ideas and concepts of how it should be. If you want to suffer, compare this moment with your image of how it should be." So as you move through this practice, there'll probably be waves that you don't like, that you resist and try to push against. Can you just start by noticing that? And begin to bring awareness to your breath. You don't need to change your breath, just noticing the rising and falling of the breath. Allow your eyes to blink open. We're going to start with a ball. And we're going to stand up. And we're going to roll out the foot. If you have one foot that feels tighter than the other foot, start with that one. If you want to move towards a wall for balance, you can do that. It's making contact with the ball. Or our hello strokes. Work over towards the pinky toe side of your foot, going from the pinky toe down towards the heel. Then work your way over towards the inner edge of the foot, from the big toe to the inner heel. And then we're going to go to our high heel stance, or the ball will be right at the base of the heel. And like a high heel shoe, try to stand up and put weight there. Nice posture, shoulders up, head back. And keep the ball there, bring your heel down towards the floor. And do little knee bends. We're getting some range of motion in that front ankle. And then we're going to start to take the foot from side to side. So the heel stays on the floor. See if you can get the pinky toe towards the floor and the inner edge of the foot towards the floor. A windshield wipering the ball will start to make its way up towards the balls of the foot. And all these little bones to move. Right, and then let's stop the ball so it's on the ball of the foot. And then same thing, heel on the floor, little knee bends. See if you can spread your toes. All right, and then we'll do our goodbyes. So rolling out the foot however feels good to you. Then come to standing. Feet about hip distance apart, eyes soften or close. And bring your awareness to the legs and the feet. Notice if you feel any difference. Shift the weight to the foot you were just rolling out, push down through it and lift up your other knee. Okay, switch sides. Hello, strokes. And work it over to the pinky toe edge of the foot, that outer arch. Marking it towards the inner arch. And then we'll stop at our high heel, ball of the foot on the floor, ball underneath the front of that heel. You're in control of how much pressure you put down, so you can lean more of your weight on the ball, or you can take some weight off by stepping more weight onto the opposite foot. Okay, then bring the heel down towards the floor and do little knee bends. Trying to keep the knee bending towards the toes. The toes spreading. And we'll work the ball up to the center of the ball of the foot. Shifting more weight there. In Chinese medicine, they say that this point is emotionally stabilizing. Could practice spreading your toes again. Do a few knee bends, get into your calf. And then roll back towards the heel. We forgot to windshield wiper. We're moving that ball side to side for cross fiber friction. Hoping to lengthen out the plantar fascia and all of the muscles and tendons at the bottom of the foot. Inversion and eversion of the ankle. So if we happen to trip this winter, we don't roll our ankle as easily. Nice, and do some goodbye strokes. Great, set your ball off to the side. And then come to stand on both feet. Notice the subtle differences. You're going to do one round of a sun salutation. As you inhale, stretch your arms up to the sky. Exhale, little bend in your knees, pivoting at the hips, forward fold. Stay down in this forward fold for a moment. Bend your knees a little bit more than you normally do to take any strain out of the hamstrings. Roll out the neck, maybe the shoulders. Then inhale, slide your hands to the top of your thighs. Press your spine forward, long, straight spine. And then exhale, plant your hands, step back, downward facing dog. Lift your armpits up away from the floor so you're not trying to push your chest down. Pull the ribs in a little bit. Bend your knees and push your sit bones towards the back of the room. As you inhale, come forward to plank. And then we'll lower our knees down, modified plank position. And then slowly lower down just a little bit and pause. Pushing through the hands and the knees for stability, and then come all the way down towards the floor. Engage the legs together, push into the tops of the feet, and then bring your forearms forward, elbows on the floor. Pull your belly in away from the ground, and then pushing through the forearms, try to drag your elbows back towards your feet, heart slides through. Tuck your chin a little bit, lengthen up through the back of the neck. Really nice, lower back down, push into your hands next to your, under your shoulders, press back up through table. And now we're gonna find our towel. So if you don't have a towel, go grab one. Or if you have a firm blanket, that can work too. And I'm gonna take my towel so it's a little bit narrower. And then I'm gonna roll it up really tightly. This would be a good spot to have a block too. If you have one of those nearby, I'm going to use my water bottle. And then we're going to come and do a forward fold on this roll. And we're going to take the heels to the floor and see how much we can snug the blanket roll underneath our feet. Avoid the knees hyperextending, so tiny bends in the knees. And then take your hands to your block, come up halfway. Lift and spread your toes. You can stay up halfway or begin to fold forward. Knees can bend. We're going to hold this pose longer than we normally do. And it's going to be an opportunity to stimulate some waves. They'll just naturally come. And you imagine them like waves on the ocean that you are. And if the mind drifts, see if you can gently bring it back to something that's happening in the moment, maybe feeling the sensations of the hamstrings or the feeling of your breath. I can feel my quads and calf shaking. I like to jokingly say they're jumping for joy, but really it's some of this fascia, the connective tissue that's been so tight. It's shaking as some of those patterns are releasing. Notice if you're squeezing your shoulders towards your ears or if you're clenching your face. Maybe circle out the shoulders, soften the face, the tongue, the teeth. Really nice. Now we're going to step off of our blanket roll, coming to a forward fold. Notice the difference. And then as you walk your hands up your thighs again, inhale, lengthen halfway up. Put a little bend in your knees and bring your chest a little bit more upright. And then push into your feet, come all the way up to standing. Take your hands to the top of your head, push through your feet and lift up through the crown of your head. Helping to even out blood pressure. Really nice, and release. Come down and grab your blanket. Actually, we'll come down to sit here. Okay, so we're gonna open the blanket now so it's a little bit wider so we can make a thinner roll. This pose will look different for all of us. We're gonna take this thinner blanket roll right behind the calves. I like to take my forehead to the floor so I can get the blanket roll in there. Let's start with your forearms on the floor, kind of like child's pose. How's it feel on your knee? This is stage one. You could start coming up. If you have like your knee doesn't like to bend so much, you could put a block underneath your hips too, so you're not putting all of the weight down on your knees. So this is a knee space opener and a calf compression. Again, we're going to be here for a little bit. periodically scanning through the body and noticing where you're tensing up. You can soften in this open space for waves to come and waves to go. Nice. Hinging at your hips, coming back towards your child's pose on your forearm. Slide the blanket roll out. Let your hips settle more back towards your heels. Notice if there's any kind of difference here. You can stay here or you can lift up for a moment, noticing if there's a difference. And then we're going to work our way back into downward facing dog. And this time we're going to slowly walk our hands back towards the feet. So moving slowly, one hand at a time, until you make it to another forward fold. Take your hands up to your thighs. Inhale, push through your arms, lengthen halfway up. Then hands come to the hips, come all the way up. Okay, next one, grab your blanket roll. We're gonna keep it like this. Nice and snug. And we're going to do another forward fold. So this class is very much focused on the hamstrings and the back of the legs. Having your blanket roll at your hip creases. Jam it in. And we're going to start with our elbows on the knees. Sit bones back. And then you can begin to tip forward into your forward fold. Blanket roll, giving support to your low back here. Soften your shoulders, your head. Seeing if you can get the weight equal between the toes and the heel. Deep belly breaths into the blanket. How much breath can you breathe in as you inhale, and how much breath can you push out as you exhale? And we're going to pull the blanket out. Forward fold again. Notice any differences. Then we're going to take our blanket roll behind us on the ground. Come up onto the balls of the feet and pull the blanket roll so they're underneath our heels. Turn the toes out a little bit and squat down for as much as comfortable for your knees. That might not be all the way. Great, then we're going to transition to our bum. Same blanket roll. I'm going to put my bum on it, and I'm going to lay down on my back. My blanket roll supporting right underneath my hips. Take your feet a little bit wide, spread your toes, and we're going to windshield wiper the knees. Draw your belly in and slowly rotate both of your knees over to the left, inside edge of the right foot, outside edge of the left foot. With the belly in, slowly bring your knees up through center and towards the right. So slow rotations. To the left. As we get to the left, we're going to stay here on this side. You can heel toe your right foot a little bit more to the right. So the right knee is a little bit more in line with the right hip. Take the left hand on top of the right rib to encourage it to stay down. Even do a little crunch. Rib in, and then put the head back down. And then stretch up through the right arm. Turn the right palm down towards the floor, and then reach your fingertips down to the floor for a block. And for me, my right knee is feeling a little bit of pressure on the inside of my right knee, so I'm going to walk my right foot back in a little bit. That takes the pressure out of it for me. Feeling the belly, the ribs expand with your in-breath. The back of the body, and then as you exhale, use the strength of your core and see how much you can exhale. If you'd like to add on, you can take your left foot to the front of the right quad and try to help pull the right leg out of the pelvis, which is different than putting the left foot on the right knee and pushing it down to the floor. We're trying to drag the femur out, not down. If you have your left foot up, bring it down, and then we'll go to the other side. Right hand comes back. Both knees tip over to the left. Maybe move your glutes, both your hips lift and move over to the left. And let your knees go to the right. Right hand on left rib. And stretch your left arm up to the sky. Palm pivots down. Fingertips to the floor. I'm trying to stay in the moment. And with all the things that come up in this moment that make us uncomfortable, so we flee by thinking about different things. You can add your right foot to your left quad, pull it out. And getting a little bit more into the hip flexors. Maybe squeeze the left glute if that adds to the stretch in the front of the left hip. Really nice. Release the right foot, come back through center, pull your blanket roll out from underneath you. We're going to come up to sitting. You can roll over to your side or rock and roll. We'll roll up our blanket again. I'm going to go a little bit thicker for this one. So I'm going to do this angle, but you can stay with that thinner one. And I'm not going to roll quite all the way up. It looks pretty thick. And then I'm going to place the roll on my ribs below my chest. I'm going to stack my hands like crocodile pose, forehead rest on the top hand. This is a diaphragm release. Oftentimes the diaphragm, this muscle that helps us take big breaths, is really tight and restricted up in our rib cage. And it's also very much connected to our flight or fight response. This compression can help release that and take bigger breaths and help be in a more calm space. Again, those big breaths, inhaling deeply, feeling the back of the ribs expand. Exhale, seeing how much of the air you can release from your lungs, feeling the extra compression as you have no breath. Never breathing too long or deep that it stresses you out, finding your long breath. A few more breaths here. And then slide your hands underneath your shoulders, push back into your hands and your knees for table. Move your blanket out of the way. Tuck your toes, downward facing dog. Ribs might feel like they're a little bit more naturally drawn in here. That's great. Little drag back of the sit bones. Inhale, stretch your right leg up towards the sky. Hips are squared. Exhale, come forward, step your right foot forward. If it doesn't make it, help bring it forward. Look, lengthen forward. Push down powerfully through your feet. Work your hands up to your knee or your hips and help yourself come all the way up. Your blood pressure feels off, you can take your hands to the top of your head. Or if you're ready, you can straighten your arms up to the sky. Maybe a little side stretch on one side, other side. Then we're gonna work our way back to down dog. So hinging forward, hands come down, step back, downward facing dog. Next side, inhale, left leg reaches up and back. Then shift forward, left knee pulls towards the chest as you step forward, helping your foot forward if it doesn't quite make it. Deciding if your stance is too long or too narrow, maybe shortening or widening it. Then pushing down through both of your legs, activating the muscles, and then working your way all the way up to your lunge. Awesome. Hands can come to the top of your head. Blood pressure stabilization.
I'm not sure.
Alexa, no one was talking to you. Stretch your arms up to the sky. Maybe a little side stretch from one direction to the other. Hinging at the hips, forward fold. Hands come down, step back, downward facing dog. Begin to walk your feet forward towards the middle of your mat, then walk your hands back, forward folds. Work your hands to the top of your thighs, press yourself long. Then hands to the hips, come all the way up to standing. Roll the shoulders out, roll the wrists out, roll the pelvis, maybe the feet, the other foot, shake it out. Awesome, and we're done. Thanks for joining us today for Stretch and Roll.